Hi guys! So, believe it or not, we're already in March, and now that a couple of months of the year have gone by, I have built up quite an impressive stack of planners that I started off the year using in some capacity or another, but are now languishing on the shelf and are currently unassigned. So I thought that I would go through them with you and explain what happened in each case and why I'm not using them, because I always think it's interesting to hear about people's planner journeys as the year progresses. So first up is this beautiful Paper Blanks planner, which started in August of 2016. So it's an 18-month planner running until the end of 2017. And I absolutely love this planner. I'm a big fan of Paper Blanks, and I think that this design is just stunning. And when I first bought this planner, it was September 2016, and I intended to use it as a meal planner. If you know me, you know that I have quite a checkered history with meal planning, and it doesn't usually work out for more than a little while. And indeed, that's what happened in this planner. So you can see this is the first week when I got it, and I used it for about 4 days and then fell off the meal planning wagon. And as soon as that happened, that was kind of like the kiss of death for this planner, because something else that you might know about me from other videos is that I'm a little bit OCD where planners are concerned, and I really like to have one planner being used consistently for the same thing over the year, and I like to use the same pen, and I like it all to look uniform. And so as soon as I stopped using this for meal planning, it kind of suffered in that when I started using it for something else, you can see only like maybe 2 weeks later, I started using it as a vision book to write down things that I wanted to happen. And I stuck to the same pen, but somehow just knowing that I had used it for 2 different things kind of irked me. And I felt like I just couldn't look at it in the same way again, even though, there was nothing wrong with it. It's not like there were pages torn out or, anything that I kind of really messed up and was unsightly in terms of the writing. There are no big ink stains or anything, but I just somehow I felt like it had become a scrap planner, if that makes sense. And I know that's absolutely totally in my head, but that's what happened. And even though I really, really love it, I felt like it just somehow wasn't like part of my A lineup, if that makes sense. So I used it for that actually for quite a while, until the beginning of November 2016, which is when I got my second Hobonichi Weeks, which I decided to use as a combination gratitude and vision book. And so when I switched over from that, I decided to start using it as an expenses tracker. And I used it for an expenses tracker for a few weeks until the end of December, when I got a mini happy planner that kicked in, and I started using that as my expenses tracker. And then it just kind of went back to being abandoned, and that's how it started 2017, and that was really sad. And so then I started using it again as a meal planner, but that only lasted 1 day, as you can see, because I'm just so terrible at meal planning. And since then, it's basically been empty, which makes me really sad because, like I said, I still love it. I really, really love the design, and I love the size. I love everything about it. So I did have an attempt here just to use it as a kind of very, very brief daily overview. I was just trying that out, and then I attempted a bit of meal planning here as well, and that didn't work. And here I just used it for some notes about possible things that I could do with it, kind of like scrap paper. So at the moment, we're here, and you can see that it's gone through all of these different iterations. It's been used for all these different things. So I guess in a way that's kind of cool, because it shows some kind of evolution over the course of the last 7 or 8 months. So maybe I should just keep it like that for the rest of the year, and whenever I have something that I need a spare planner for, I can go to it. This is actually something that I think is quite an important aspect of planner addiction, is that you inevitably end up with some spare planners that you're not using. And I think it's kind of nice, if you like them, just to know that they're available in case you want to try something out, or you decide to start tracking something that you haven't tracked before, or maybe you want to do something like meal planning or finance planning that you haven't done. And if you have a spare planner that you can kind of experiment with without having to invest any more money or, really commit to something long term, you can see if you like tracking or planning that aspect of your life or not. So this hasn't seen the end of its days yet. I would still like to use it for things, but it kind of saddens me to know that because I've used it for all of these different purposes, I kind of feel like it's relegated to being a second-rate planner and it won't be a star of my lineup, if that makes sense. I know that's completely ridiculous, but I'm sure a lot of you will understand. So I'm actually thinking that I really like this format for an expense planner, and I think because bound planners are my first love, that probably after 2017 I'll go back to using one of these for my expense tracker, because at the moment I'm using a mini happy planner, which I love as well, but I don't take the pages out, so I really don't need the discs. And this has got a very similar setup and it's just the right size for an expense tracker. So I think out of the different uses that I have used this for over the course of the last few months, expense tracker was really perfect. And probably if I'd started off the year, or I'd started off the planner in August using it as an expenses tracker, it would have been easier to stick to it. So that is the story of the Paper Blanks planner. Now on to the next one. The mini happy planner. So I've got two mini happy planners. The other one is the one that I mentioned that I'm using for my expenses tracker, and that's perfect. I really love it. I want to use it for the rest of the year. Despite any temptations to switch over to using some other pretty shiny new planner, I really, really want to use it for the whole year. This one, I started off the year, that's a picture of Panda. I started off the year using this as what I'm calling a dirty home planner. The concept of a dirty planner comes from Amy Loves Paper, and I think it just really sums up the idea of a planner where you don't have to worry about it being neat or pretty or decorating it. You just write down what you need to do. So I started off the year using this for home to-dos basically, and I've got my personal planner, which is what I use for all of my to-dos that aren't work related. So in a way this was kind of redundant, but I was using it because the idea was that it would be open on the table and James would be able to see it as well, and I could write down things that I wanted him to do, because I had all of these grand ideas for, you know, clearing out our flat and stuff like that. And so sometimes I would give him jobs to do, which sounds really terrible, but he authorized me to do this and he liked having this planner. So I was writing down routines and also one-off things that had to be done so that he could check it and we would both be able to see. So some of them are things like brush Mochi's teeth, which either of us could do, but if it was in here, then we would both have the opportunity to remember to do it. And I did that for probably a month and a half. I was using it like that. As you can see, it starts to kind of get a little bit sparse here, which is what made me feel like maybe it wasn't working so well. Or not that there's anything wrong with the planner, just to be clear. It's a great planner and it really works well for this type of a thing. Just something where you need to jot down a few lines per day. So like the boys' flea medicine, that kind of thing. And I got to the beginning of March, which is this week, and then I decided that basically we've got two home planners with this scenario. We had this one, and then we had the so-called pretty home planner where I use stickers, and I was using that for appointments and events that we had in common. I mean, you know, joint appointments and events that we were both going to, and also my work schedule so that James would know when I'm home and when I'm out. And we decided that it was actually more economical and efficient just to have one home planner, and actually that I could fit these to-dos in that planner as well using the stickers. So I transferred everything that had been in here into the pretty home planner and just kind of consolidated, which made this redundant, although the same information is still being recorded. It's just that it's in that other planner now, leaving this empty. And of course that pains me because I do really like this and I'd like to find another use for it. Obviously this will now suffer the same sad fate as the Paper Blanks one, in that, you know, it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable having a planner used for different things over the course of the year, unless it's just like really scrap kind of stuff. And as you can see, this was never that beautiful to begin with. I was just writing things down and crossing them out. So it's not like I have this, you know, immaculately decorated, beautiful, color coordinated planner that I'm now going to have to switch over to a completely different use. So the issue is that I really am quite happy with my system at the moment, and I don't feel like I need another planner for something, so I'm just keeping this here waiting to see if a use comes to me. The one thing that I am considering is, yet again, for the 1000th time, meal planning, because whenever we do manage to do meal planning, it's really good. I mean, everyone who does meal planning knows this. It just makes you much more efficient. It means that you throw away less food. It, like kind of saves you money because you know exactly what you need to buy, etc., etc. So I really like the idea of meal planning, but we just don't manage to find the time to do it or make the time to do it, and then we stop doing it, and it just never works somehow. But I think that if I am going to start meal planning again, this is one of the candidates because it's about the right size. This is also a candidate, and as you saw, I did briefly use this for meal planning originally, so possibly I'll go back to meal planning in one of these two. And then if not, I'll just wait for inspiration to strike. And I do actually find it quite nice to know that I've got these extra planners that I can use if I need one. So that's another one. Then the third one is this Moleskine Daily Diary. And when I bought this planner, I did not have a clear idea in mind of what I wanted to use it for, which maybe is a warning sign that, like one shouldn't buy a planner if one doesn't know how one is going to use it. But all planner addicts know, that's what we do. And I think it's okay because part of the excitement is buying a new planner and having a look at it and thinking about all the different ways that you might use it. And I also really wanted to do a walkthrough of this, and I enjoyed doing that. So I feel like it was worth it just for that. And I love it. It makes me happy to look at it. So I do really like looking at this stack of planners, even if they're not being used. So I don't think it's a complete waste. But nevertheless, if you've got planners, obviously it's very tempting to try to find uses for them. So I started off decorating this, and like I said, I wasn't sure what I was going to use it for, and I did a Planner Addict Dilemma video on it discussing the various options, and started off using it as a daily reflection planner where I would write down some highlights of the day at the end of the day. And then that got to be overwhelming, and I just didn't keep up with it, and I stopped after a few days. Then briefly I was trying to use it for the opposite, so recording positive things that I wanted to do in the day ahead, and that didn't work either. I just stopped doing it. I couldn't keep up with it. I think that in a way there's a sort of natural equilibrium that you reach with planning, where if you are a multiple planner kind of planner addict and you end up with a whole bunch of planners, naturally you'll kind of end up with the right balance of planners that work for you, and the ones that are just too much you'll stop using, and that tells you that that planner was too much for you and you don't really need it. So that's what happened with this. Then I started using it as an hourly planner, which is what it's actually designed for. It's a daily hourly planner with times going from 8 in the morning until 8 p.m., which is not great for me because I usually am active and, working and doing stuff quite a bit later than 8 p.m., but it's okay. So I started using it just to map out when I had a particularly busy day involving timings where I needed to know how much time to allow myself before I had to leave the house, because along with staying up late, I also have terrible difficulties in the morning, and I usually get up at the last possible moment that I have to. So sometimes it's just useful to be able to sketch out your day. And I've talked about this before. I used it for that quite a bit, as you can see here. Usually just to map out a couple of really crucial hours where I had to work out, I want to be able to do this, 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 and this before I leave the house. When do I have to get up? But sometimes I would map out the whole day just to see what it looked like. And I did that. This page I was just using for some notes. I happened to have this planner open and I needed to jot something down. So you can see here, I think this was the last time I used it. Oh no. I was away here in the US, and then I came back and I used it a bit more, and I just haven't used it recently. So today is Monday, March 6th, so I haven't used it in a couple of weeks. So this doesn't necessarily mean that I won't use it again for that purpose, because when I have used it as an hourly planner, I've found it really helpful. It's just like a kind of rough draft so that I can see how much time I'll have. as opposed to my other planners, which are divided between work and personal or don't have an hourly breakdown, etc. So this is another planner whose main problem, I guess, is the fact that I started off using it for one thing and then switched to something else. And for some reason that just really bugs me. So again, I think if I'd started off the year using this as an hourly planner, I would feel much more motivated to keep using it. But because the first couple of weeks are covered in stickers, it just somehow like jars with me. I know that that's ridiculous, but that's just how it is. And so I kind of feel like this is permanently a like kind of grade B planner, and whenever I look at it, I'm like, oh, I wish that I'd started off the year using it like this, you know, just with pen, because then I could look through the whole thing and it would look uniform, which is just, I don't know, that's how I like my planners to look. It's weird. So probably if I use this again, I will go back to using it as an hourly planner, because it's really useful to have that sometimes. And it could be that I'm just in a lull at the moment where I haven't happened to need it for that, but you know, there will be a day next week where I think, oh, I really want to sketch out my day by the hour, and then I'll go back to it. So this one I don't think lends itself to something like meal planning or any other type of planning that I'm, you know, considering, that I might be considering doing, because it's daily, and I feel like a daily planner has a more, not necessarily limited scope, but different than a weekly planner. So I think that the most likely candidate for this, again, is if I decide that I want to sketch out my days by the hour. So I'm just keeping it on standby in case I want to do that again. Now, next up is another interesting case here. This is the British Library Shakespeare Diary for 2017, and I bought this just because I am a sucker for bound planners and I like Shakespeare. So I kind of couldn't not buy it, even though, again, it was a little bit of a reckless purchase because I didn't have a fixed idea for it in mind, and that is often lethal. So it doesn't really bother me because, like I said, I love planners. I like looking at them. I like, you know, seeing them in their nice, like, beautiful stack on my shelf, and so it doesn't necessarily bother me if I'm not using them all the time. But when a planner is dated, I think you do always feel a little bit of pressure because you don't want it to go to waste. So this planner started off very briefly as a joint Happy Things planner for me and James. So we were going to use this to note down all of the nice things that we were going to do together during the week, because we often tend to be very busy and get stressed and kind of frustrated that we're not doing enough nice things and, you know, don't make enough time for each other. So we thought that having a planner devoted to that would be a nice way of focusing on, you know, happy stuff to do together. And so we did actually do that this first week, and then that's it. So I think that this is just more evidence of how we need a planner like this. We immediately fell off the wagon, and then we just never used it again. And I haven't been able to think of anything else that it really lent itself to. You can see where the bookmark is. This is the last time I went back to this planner and, you know, tried to think, what would I use this for? I put the bookmark onto the current week. So that was mid-February when I last did that. So I do periodically revisit all of these planners that don't have a use and try to think about what I might be able to repurpose them for. So one thing we could do with this is to go back to using it as we originally planned to, but I'm not sure if realistically that's going to happen, because also I think sometimes you have a nice idea of what you think you might use a planner for, but then it just doesn't fit in with your lifestyle. And when we do have some free time, we usually want to spend it singing, because we like to sing and James plays the guitar, and or, you know, I don't know, we just somehow this hasn't come together. And because this is a week on one page, it's kind of a funny format, because I think more commonly I'm used to thinking of ways to use a week on 2 pages. For something like meal planning, I feel like this is a little bit small because the boxes are quite narrow. So I think that probably the most likely thing for this planner is Tails has eye medicine that he has to take once a day, and at the moment I'm using a Disc Agenda Manta, and just ticking off when he's had his eye medicine. But that runs out at the end of April. So I think when that runs out, then I'll switch over to using this, because I can just put a tick in the day and then we know that he's had it. And it's nice to look at because it's got all of these different prints and woodcuts and engravings and things like that. So I think that's what I'm going to use this for, but at the moment it is languishing on the shelf with the other unassigned planners. Now, last but certainly not least, we have the classic size Happy Planner, and this is the Peonies design. And this is yet another planner that I bought without a clear idea of what I wanted to use it for. So you might detect a pattern developing. The planners that I bought with a clear purpose in mind, I'm using, although actually I'm also using some planners that I didn't know what I wanted them for when I bought them. So who knows? I think the moral is it's fine to experiment, and sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't, and that's all part of the ride. So I don't really mind. But this planner I bought, it was my birthday, I had some Amazon vouchers, and I just really always keep coming back to the Happy Planner. I don't know what it is about it that I love the discs, and they're just so happy. I love the designs too. So when I first bought this, like I said, I didn't know what to use it for, and then quite soon after, I kind of had this brainwave to start using it as an evening planner, because James and I were feeling really stressed in the evenings, and that we had too much going on, and we just couldn't get a handle on the evenings. So it might seem quite mad to use a whole planner just for evenings, but that is what I did. So I put these Mambi checkboxes down from the value packs, and then just wrote out, divided the evening into like 2 hourly chunks, and then so this was 6 until 8, 8 until 10, 10 until midnight, and then just wrote down what each of us had or wanted to do, so that we could make sure to get everything done and ideally have a bit of free time as well built in. So I did this for a week, really happy with it. I liked how it looked. It was happy and fun, and it did seem to help get a handle on the evenings. And then when I started teaching again, because this was during the winter break and I was out until late, it just kind of fell apart and we didn't use it anymore for that. Then I started using it as a meal planner. Sounding familiar, right? This is like a recurring trope in my life, constant attempts to meal plan that just end in disaster. So that worked quite well for a little while. That was end of January, beginning of February. Oh look, 2 weeks I managed to keep it up. Then in the middle of the 3rd week, it just kind of fell away again, as meal planning always seems to do. And then I just used it for random notes. As you can see, I often do in these planners when I'm not using them. I feel like I'd like to write something in them because I just really enjoy writing in my planners. So I just write, kind of random notes that I'm thinking about at the time. This was what to do with the Happy Planner, and then what to do with these 2 other planners that are currently unassigned as well. So I did that, and then I attempted to use this as just like a kind of daily overview, like a really kind of brief daily overview, which I did in the Paper Blanks planner as well, just to kind of try it out and see what it would look like. But that didn't take because I have all my other planners that I use for that. And so at the moment, again, this is just empty, which makes me really sad because there are all of these beautiful planner pages that I would like to use. So one thing that occurred to me, James and I were discussing, is that one of the things that I love more than anything in the world is to decorate my pretty planner, which is a Leuchtturm 1917. You've probably seen the orange one. And I love it so much that I kind of feel sad that it's my only pretty planner, and have thought it would be nice if I had another planner that I could decorate as well. And the Happy Planner lends itself to that because that's what it's made for. So, things like, and I've got tons and tons of the Mambi value pack stickers, and, the boxes, the full box stickers obviously are designed to fit the classic size Happy Planner, and so they would be perfect for that. And a lot of the other stickers, as well, they're all designed for this. So I've been thinking about maybe trying to use it in a more typical Happy Planner-ish way and decorate it. But the problem is what to use it for, because again, I feel like my planner setup is pretty good at the moment. I'm happy with everything that I'm using, and I don't feel like there are any gaps in it, except for the meal planning, which I'm not sure if it really merits a whole entire classic size Happy Planner. But that is one possibility, is that I could use it for meal planning, but, kind of decorate it and make it into a fun event, and maybe that would make it easier for us to stick to the meal planning, like for the first time in history. There was a time last year, around this time of year, maybe it was March, April, May, where I was using my Disc Agenda Diva from Doki Book as a meal planner, and I was decorating it, and I think that's the longest that I ever actually stuck to meal planning, like probably 2 months or so. So maybe that was the key. Maybe decorating it and making it feel more special is the key to actually being able to stick with it. So it's possible that I would do that. The other thing that I could do is use it as a kind of home pretty planner / memory planner, because it would be nice to take advantage of the discs and be able to, like, say, punch things and put them in if there's, you know, something that, I don't know, something particularly memorable that we get that would be nice to keep. But I'm not much of a memory planning sort of person. It's just never something that has really appealed to me. Not that I think there's anything bad about it. I'm much better at planning than at recording and looking back. So I kind of feel like I probably wouldn't stick with it, and I wouldn't want to waste the stickers knowing that it might not be something that I'd commit to for the whole year. So that is where things stand at the moment. I'm considering possibly pretty meal planning with this, but I'm not completely sure. I do really want to use it though, perhaps more than any of the others, because it's just so adorable. So there you have it. These are my 5 currently unassigned planners. I have also got a couple of other planners that I'm not using, but they're in a different category because those are planners that I've never used, so they're completely blank and I'm still trying to think of what to do with them. But they still have all their potential in a way, because they don't have the issue of having been used for something and then, you know, maybe switching over to something else, which kind of somehow sullies them in my bizarre planner addict brain. So the happy planner is actually, well, the 2 happy planners are in a better position than these 3 bound books, because I could just tear out the pages that are used and then I would have a nice blank planner. So that's a possibility that I am considering. So I hope that you have enjoyed this look into my bizarre, complicated planner addict situation. I, as always, am really grateful to you for watching the video, and I will be back again soon with another one.